Hey, you. Thanks for tuning in. Just a quick heads up, this episode is rated R, so expect that there will be some language that you may not want your kids to hear, lots of adult topics, and quite possibly some explicit conversations about sex. This episode is probably not safe for work, though, I guess it depends on where you work. One of them looked at me and was like, "What do you get out of all of this?" And my explanation was like, couples that are in love the way you guys obviously are, that have great communication the way you guys obviously do, because I've been talking with you, and that care about each other like this, it's almost like you can get drunk on that by being around it, And when that couple invites you to participate in such an intimate moment, and I have the opportunity to both be a part of it and to further enhance that intimate moment, I love that. I guess not everybody would love it like I do, but to me it's like magic. Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio, the place to rethink the assumptions we don't even realize we are making that keep us from getting what we truly want out of work, life, and love. Here is your sneak peek into an authentic, pleasure-focused conversation. The assumption we'll be checking in with today is the concept that breakups need to be bad. Breakups don't need to be bad. They can be epic, and you can both come out of it looking like heroes. The thing is, communication can lead to the most satisfying, enjoyable experiences. Being kind pays dividends in the end. This episode is dedicated to my wonderful ex, Tom, and to my touchingly creative friend, Val.
What does a threesome, a breakup, and someone called Val have in common?
I like that. What does a threesome, a breakup, and someone called Val have in common? That actually sounds like I had a threesome with Val or something and got broken up with over it. That's not at all what happened. Well, welcome back to Pleasure Central Radio, Rowan.
It is a pleasure to be here.
So I told you that I had a couple of really great stories for you. And these are things that have happened to me recently, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet. So I figured, why not share these kind of wild and crazy stories with you live on the podcast?
Yeah, you're the interviewer, interviewing yourself, so I'm not sure how essential of a role I play here, but it's a pleasure to be here.
You play the role of the person who can be shocked, awed, and blush.
The person who says, "What the fuck?" at the right moments.
Yeah, something like that. All right, but these are all really heartwarming stories, so I think you're going to be uplifted and inspired and maybe surprised. So a year ago, while we were in the first lockdown for COVID, I had my birthday, and I had wanted to have a small house concert for my birthday before COVID happened, and that just wasn't going to happen with the way everything was going on. So I had serendipitously recorded a couple of songs with a friend of mine who's a singer-songwriter named Val D'Alessio, and I took those songs that I recorded with her permission, and we published them on that show, on that episode, along with some other poetry, and Sam and I were emceeing it and shared a couple of other beautiful, deep little things for a nice little hour chunk of poetry and music and beauty to celebrate my birthday. Well, I wanted to do the same kind of thing this year.
Mm-hmm.
Except my friend Val got into a car accident a few months ago. And so she now describes herself as having one good hand and one good leg. And I haven't seen her yet, so I don't know exactly what that means. But for a guitarist who makes her living teaching guitar lessons and playing guitar, that seems like it'd be pretty devastating. However, I talked to her recently, and she is in great spirits. She happened, serendipitously, to have recorded a couple of new songs just before the car accident happened. And she was willing to give them to me, to share them with me for this year's birthday episode. So put a pin in that. I'm going to share one of the songs with you here, and it's connected to the story, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Put a pin in Val.
Put a pin in Val, yeah. Okay, in the next story, I do have permission to share, and I have permission to share his name. So someone that I was dating for about 9 months broke up with me recently, and it was possibly the best breakup ever.
That's a title I want to know more about.
I'm glad it makes you curious. Yeah, it was really lovely. It was an evening. I'd been gone on trips for a little while, and we hadn't gotten to see each other much. But we had a date that night, and we got together, and we had dinner. We were just talking and catching up. And after dinner, something else about some hard thing in life came up, and he was like, well, speaking of hard things, I have found that my feelings in this relationship are changing, and they're changing away from the romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, thanks for telling me. Actually, that's really helpful.
That is good to know.
It is good to know. It was said so kindly, and I think you had mentioned this earlier today when we were talking about speaking about what you need for yourself instead of making the other person bad or wrong about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really lovely. But yeah, I think you did a great job of that. And so then we ended up spending the rest of the evening going out, walking around the neighborhood, holding hands, and just sharing stories with each other about how fun it was to go through the pandemic together and how much we appreciated each other and what we learned from each other. And it was so cool, too, because it was like, Rebecca, when I met you, I didn't know anyone that was as open as you are, as open and authentic, and like you talked about orgasms on our first date in the park. I had never done that before with anybody else. To me, that's perfectly normal, but
that's just a usual walk in the park for you.
That's just a usual walk in the park for me. But he did say that he has learned how to come into his own so much because of my example and being around me and seeing what that's like and starting to value authenticity and starting to value that openness and trust that he can put himself and his own needs out there in the world and that it can be met and received. And I was like, you learned all of that from me? That's amazing. Thank you.
That is a wonderful sign of a very healthy breakup if you can spend more time together immediately after the breakup and be okay.
Yeah, and actually be, good, be enjoying it. Because that's the thing. It's like if somebody doesn't have romantic feelings for you, you don't want to push yourself on them. That just feels weird. So the moment that intention came across, it was like, oh, yeah, okay, fine, good. Thanks for the information. I mean, it's not that I wasn't sad at all. I'm definitely going to miss this person. And we're definitely going to be in each other's lives a bit still, which is lovely. We have been. It's been a couple of weeks, and we've still stayed connected here and there. And that means a lot to me, too. But there was another piece towards the end of the evening. We were drawing tarot cards or something, and he was sitting and waiting his turn. And he started to tear up, and he looks at me, and he just goes, Rebecca, the stuff that you talk about, this authenticity and compersion and practicing open-heartedness and integrity and all of that, it sounds so good. And from our evening tonight, it's really clear to me that you actually mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that you live this stuff.
Do you know what specifically from that evening stood out to him as evidence that you live those values?
I think it was just that I wasn't trying to change his mind, and I wasn't trying to berate him into doing anything different. It was just like, yeah, that's what you want? Okay, that's what you want.
I heard this therapist was leading part of a retreat that I was on once, and she had this idea. It's okay for people in the group to show up as they are. They don't have to worry about the impact on her because she knows herself and is okay with herself enough that you can show up and be yourself, and even if that's messy, you don't have to worry about her because she's good. And I feel like maybe that's part of it too. Like, you know yourself and you're established well enough in yourself that things can shift maybe even a way that you didn't want them to, but you're still fundamentally okay. And you don't have to latch onto somebody else to try and make you okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really sweet.
It's one of the great things about polyamory too. I think it leaves a lot of room. You don't have to have everything invested on one relationship. I know for some friends that are in the monogamous world, for them, if they're in a relationship for 9 months and then it ends, that's a failure, because that's 9 months that they have not been spent getting to know the one that they're going to marry and have kids with. And that's not to say that non-monogamy is better than monogamy, like obviously whatever works for you, but I think one of the strengths of non-monogamy and polyamory is it allows you to let relationships be what they are, and it's okay if they change. It's not like the last 9 months, all of a sudden like, oh shit, this isn't the person I'm going to marry anymore, now I need to go start again from scratch.
Yeah. And I honestly think it was so cool how we were able to just share with each other what we meant to each other. And like his example as an entrepreneur has been really powerful for me. Mm-hmm. And getting to see the way he acts and interacts with his staff and his people and his journey and all of it. There's so much of that filled an asking that I had. That was really cool. And to get to share that with him and to let him know how much his insight and success inspired me and motivated me was really cool.
Mm. What a great affirmation.
What a great affirmation. Right? So there's more to the story. Do you want to have any questions about this part so far?
My only questions are how the threesome fits into all of this. Carry on.
Okay, so I'm coming to that. So the threesome was something that came out of work. So I had a couple contact me who'd never seen me before, and they were both really interested in her experiencing her very first time with a woman. Mm-hmm. And I love doing sessions like that. It's so much fun, and it's so fulfilling for me. When the couple is really connected to each other and they've got great communication, it is such a pleasure to be a part of that. When I'm working with couples and people where I know there's likely to be a dynamic that needs to be managed, I found it's very helpful to meet ahead of time and to have some of those conversations ahead of time without the pressure of getting naked right away. Mm-hmm. And so we met up one night in the park, and the three of us just got to know each other and talked about boundaries and edges and safety and whatever else we really needed to know. And then the next evening they came over and I got to welcome them into my home and share with them. It was so neat because on our walk, one of them looked at me and was like, "What do you get out of all of this?" And my explanation was like, couples that are in love the way you guys obviously are, that have great communication the way you guys obviously do, because I've been talking with you, and that care about each other like this, it's almost like you can get drunk on that by being around it, mm-hmm. you know? And when that couple invites you to participate in such an intimate moment, and I have the opportunity to both be a part of it and to further enhance that intimate moment, I love that. Like, I guess not everybody would love it like I do, but to me it's like magic.
Well, I think it steps way beyond physical, right? I think for a lot of people the most enjoyable sexual encounters are accompanied by a huge emotional or some other aspect that's way beyond the physical. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those, right? Like, what a vulnerable place to decide to do this together as a couple. This means they've had conversations where they have honestly talked about their desires and fantasies and then been brave enough to keep pushing into it and decide to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this couple happens to live apart from each other, mm-hmm. which I have a fair amount of experience with. So Sam and I dated for a while, and we were in separate states, and it's hard, but there are some things that make it easier. So I both enjoyed getting to have the conversation with them about how they manage that and say, oh, here's some ways that I've done it too. And I got to give them a gift, a really special gift. So you might remember this because on my poly party birthday, we played with those chakra cards.
Mm-hmm.
You remember
Yes.
that? It's such a cool game. It's I can't remember the name of the game now, but it's a game with a bunch of different questions, open-ended questions for you to ask your partners, connected to each of the different chakras, connected to, your work life, your emotional life, your past history, your family, your ability to speak up in the world, your vision, all of those things. They're really thought-provoking, interesting questions. And so you played it with me a few times, and you played it with me at the poly party.
Which was such a wonderful polyamorous moment, playing this card game that's designed to be between two romantic sexual partners, playing it with a group of 8 people. That there's quite a few various romantic sexual connections between the group, but asking these deeply personal questions of people that some of us had only met for the first time that night was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I haven't really had you share about what you got out of any of that yet.
Oh, I'm all about let's ask each other vulnerable questions and push into the discomfort, so I loved it.
Nice.
It was a very warm moment for me.
Me too. Well, I took those cards and I split them up. I put half of the cards in the box in one gift bag, and I put the other half of the cards in the other gift bag, and I gave them each one so that they could take them separately and then play long distance with each other.
That's cute.
Thank you. So how this plays in with the thing with Tom is, so Tom had broken up with me a few days before the threesome happened, and he had promised to help a friend with something. And even after we broke up, he was like, hey, I still want to do this thing with that person. Shall we set up a date? So the 3 of us set up a time to meet up at my place, and it happened to be the day after I had met with this couple on the beach and a couple of hours before they were set to come over to my house. So I've got Tom and my other friend there, and we're sitting and talking and doing the thing that we came to do. But I told them about the chakra cards and what I had planned, because they had both played that game with me at the poly party, and I thought that was really sweet. And then I remembered this song, one of the new songs that my friend Val D'Alessio had written and recorded. And both of the friends there were really into music too, so I was like, oh, I should share this with them. And I pulled up the songs and I started to play it, and I realized one of these songs was absolutely perfect for what Tom and I had just gone through. It's called Kindness is Everything, and I'm going to play it for you now. And I think you might notice there's a couple of spots in this song where anybody that has been through what I had just been through would get all teary-eyed and moist and happy about it. So, would you like to hear it?
Yes.
I feel so bad, like a trucker in a bar, in a backcountry song, going on and on and on and on about the million ways that you could tell me to get lost, but you chose the kind way, and when you left me with a lot. 'Cause kindness is everything at the end of every day. Yeah, kindness is everything, and with you go away. This pain isn't gonna leave me, but your kindness will stay. Yeah, your kindness will stay. And it's a time of the signs, and everywhere I see Black Lives Matter, all. Kindness is key. Your kindness is everything at the end of every day. Kindness is everything when you go away. This pain isn't gonna leave me, but your kindness will stay. Your kindness will stay. And when you go, I wonder if you're ever gonna think of me. I wonder if I'm ever gonna leave you a memory. But all I got is a good hook and a bad country rhyme. Trying to be too clever when all I gotta be is kind to you. 'Cause kindness is everything, end of every day. And kindness is everything, and when you walk away, this pain isn't gonna leave me, but your kindness will stay. 'Cause kindness is everything at the end of every day.
Pretty cool song, right?
My favorite line out of there is, "This pain is going to leave me, but your kindness will stay." Yeah, I think this is really easy to demonstrate in a romantic relationship, especially this idea of a kind and well-done breakup or shift in relationship.
Transition.
Yeah. But this is something that's been really important to me, increasingly so over the last years. For me, it particularly played out in corporate tech world, where you can achieve the same thing, you can come up with the same result, and you can do it kindly, or you can be an arsehole along the way. And I think corporate tech world is full of being an arsehole, and there's precious little of being kind. And so I really love the sentiment of the song, because I'm sure that's true in breakups as well. The majority of breakups, at least the ones I hear about, are messy and not very kind from one or both angles. And so, what a great message.
Thank you. Yeah, I did want to share that breakup story because, it's been 2 weeks, and every time I share with a friend or talk about it, I still feel my heart growing bigger because of it. And that is a pretty special thing.
Yeah, if you leave a breakup with more respect for the person who just broke up with you, that's an
ninja
outlier,
level.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Gold star for Tom.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And I love that it brings up this conversation or this assumption about what is kind, right? Because I think people have a tendency to hide things from each other in an effort to be kind. I don't want to say this to this person because it will hurt their feelings. But I think that's bullshit. Don't say things specifically just to hurt your partner's feelings, but you do have to speak your truth whether or not you think it's going to hurt someone. At least I think that's an important piece.
Yeah, I think a truth spoken in a timely manner has a much greater chance of being kind than truth hidden and festered for weeks, months, years.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot less kind when that comes out.
Yeah, and it's a lot less kind along the way, right? So in this case, it is a little hard not getting to be around this person the way I used to, somebody who I still care for and love deeply. And it was done and said in such a way and in such a time that it's like, oh, now my energy is freed up to do what I want to do. Because I was starting to notice what he was talking about, the falling apart and the doing things a little bit differently. But I didn't have the same reaction to it. I didn't feel like I was falling out of emotional connection with this person. I was just like, okay, we're not having that much time together. So I was starting to put a lot of mental energy and focus into changing that, into fixing that. And so this really helped me adjust according to the level of reality, right? To say, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into that and trying to fix that, because obviously it's going the way it's meant to go. And so then I can do other things with my time and my energy. And it really did free me up and freshen some space in my life, which was, I think, his intention. And I'm really, really impressed with the fact that that was how he handled it. And what a man.
Mm-hmm. I think it also plays into the idea that knowledge is power, right? Having the knowledge of the honest knowledge of what was happening on his end gives you the power to shape your life the best you want to.
Yeah.
In the circumstances that you're in. And if you have a clear picture of those, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. So that's the whole story. So I will have some more of Val's songs in a future episode soon. I did get a bunch of submissions for my birthday episode, so I have plenty to do. I just haven't figured out how to put it together yet. But I'm really psyched, and I can't wait to share it with you.
We look forward to it.
Thanks for listening to Pleasure Central Radio, hosted by me, Radiant Rebecca. My guest and co-host today was Rowan. Today's episode was written and researched by me, with technical production by me. I get significant creative feedback from my beta listeners group. For this episode, special thanks goes to Tom, Eli, Bradley, Pathmaker, and to the sweet couple who let me into their lives for an evening. Thanks also goes to Val D'Alessio for speaking her heart so that the rest of us can hear it and be affected by it. And of course to you listening. This wouldn't be nearly as much fun without you. I look forward to your company on the next episode. Hey, Pleasure Seeker. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Here at Pleasure Central Radio, we love using conscious communication, science geekery, and copious amounts of true pleasure to improve our partnerships, our money, and our love lives. And we hope you do too. If you loved what you heard here, we'd love a review. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast and read thought-provoking essays or poems written by me, Radiant Rebecca, by checking out the blog on pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Sign up to hear about new episodes immediately at pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Your thought to ponder today is... I love that it brings up this assumption about what is kind, right? Because I think people have a tendency to hide things from each other in an effort to be kind. I don't want to say this to this person because it will hurt their feelings. But I think that's bullshit. You do have to speak your truth whether or not you think it's going to hurt someone.